The Unfamiliar Face, Part 1, Awakening. The fluorescent lights hummed above like mechanical wasps, their sterile brightness burning through my eyelids. I became aware of myself in fragments, the weight of my head on a thin pillow, the papery whisper of hospital sheets against my skin, the antiseptic smell that coated the back of my throat. Pain throbbed dully behind my eyes, a deep ache that suggested something fundamental had broken and been poorly reassembled. I opened my eyes. The ceiling tiles were water-stained, yellowed at the edges. I counted them automatically, 12 by 8, before I realized I was doing it, before I wondered why counting felt like such a natural response to waking in a strange place. A heart monitor beeped steadily beside me, its green line dancing across a black screen. An IV drip fed clear liquid into my left arm. "Oh, thank God!" The voice came from my right, soft and musical, trembling with what sounded like genuine relief. I turned my head slowly, the movement sending fresh spikes of pain through my skull. She was beautiful. That was my first thought, immediate and undeniable. She sat in a plastic chair pulled close to the bed, leaning forward with her hands clasped together, as if she'd been praying. Dark hair fell past her shoulders in waves that caught the harsh hospital light and transformed it into something softer. Her eyes were a startling shade of green, rimmed red from crying. She wore a cream-colored sweater and jeans, and on her left hand a diamond ring caught the light. She was smiling at me, tears streaming down her perfect face, looking at me like I was the answer to every prayer she'd ever whispered. I had absolutely no idea who she was. "James," she said, reaching for my hand. Her fingers were warm, her touch gentle but insistent. "I was so worried. The doctor said you'd wake up soon, but it's been 3 days, and I thought... Her voice broke. She pressed my hand to her cheek, and I felt the wetness of her tears against my knuckles. I should pull away, I thought. I should tell her she has the wrong room, the wrong person. But something in her desperation kept me frozen. My hand limped in hers, my mind scrambling for purchase on a reality that seemed to slip away whenever I grasped at it. "I'm sorry," I said finally, my voice coming out as a croak. Who are you?" The change in her expression was immediate and devastating. The relief drained from her face, replaced by confusion, then fear, then something that looked almost like betrayal. She released my hand as if it had burned her. "What?" "I don't know who you are," I said, each word feeling like a confession. "I'm sorry, I don't remember you." She stood up so quickly the chair scraped against the linoleum floor. One hand went to her mouth, the other to her stomach, as if she might be sick. No, James, don't. This isn't funny. You're scaring me. I'm not trying to be funny. I don't know where I am or how I got here, or why." I stopped, a new realization washing over me like ice water. "Wait, you called me James. Is that my name?" "Oh, God," she whispered. "Oh, God, oh, God, oh, God." She backed away from the bed, her eyes wide with horror, and then she was gone, fleeing into the hallway. I heard her voice, high and panicked. "Nurse, I need a doctor. Please, something's wrong with my husband." Husband. The word echoed in my mind, foreign and impossible. I looked down at my left hand and saw it there, a plain gold band on my ring finger. I twisted it slowly, watching how it caught the light. It fit perfectly, worn smooth, as if it had been there for years. But I had never seen it before in my life. Part 2. The Doctor. Dr. Sarah Chen was younger than I expected, perhaps in her mid-30s, with sharp eyes behind rectangular glasses and an air of competent authority. She examined me thoroughly while the beautiful woman who claimed to be my wife hovered in the doorway, her arms wrapped around herself as if trying to hold herself together. "Can you tell me your full name?" Dr. Chen asked, shining a light in my eyes. "You just called me James," I said, "but I don't actually know if that's right. It doesn't feel wrong exactly, but it doesn't feel familiar either." "James Michael Carter," the woman said from the doorway. "Your name is James Michael Carter. You're 32 years old. We've been married for 4 years. We live at 247 Maple Drive, in a blue house with a red door. You hate mushrooms. You're left-handed. You have a scar on your right knee from when you fell off your bike when you were 9. I pulled back the thin blanket and looked at my right knee. There was a scar there, faded and white, exactly where she said it would be. "That doesn't mean anything," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. "That just means you can see my knee." "James—" "Don't call me that!" The words came out sharper than I intended, surprising all of us. "I'm sorry, I need to think." Dr. Chen made a small gesture, and the woman, my alleged wife, stepped back into the hallway. The doctor closed the door gently and returned to my bedside. "James, and I'm going to keep calling you that because it's what's on your medical records, do you remember the accident?" "What accident?" "You were in a car crash 3 days ago. Your vehicle was struck by a drunk driver running a red light. You sustained a severe concussion and several cracked ribs. You were unconscious when the paramedics arrived. Your wife, Emma, has been here the entire time." Emma. A pretty name. I tried to attach it to the face I'd seen, tried to feel some spark of recognition, but found nothing except a growing unease that I couldn't quite explain. "I don't remember any accident," I said. "I don't remember anything. It's all just blank." "Retrograde amnesia," Dr. Chen said, jotting notes on her tablet. "It's not uncommon with head trauma. The good news is that your brain scans show no permanent damage. Your memory will most likely return, though it may take time. Days, weeks, possibly months. And if it doesn't?" She looked at me over her glasses, her expression neutral but not unkind. "Let's take this one day at a time. For now, I want to keep you here for observation. We'll run some more tests, and I'd like you to speak with Dr. Martinez, our neuropsychologist. He specializes in cases like yours." "Cases like mine?" I repeated. "People who wake up married to strangers?" "People recovering from traumatic brain injuries," Dr. Chen corrected gently. "Emma is not a stranger, James, even if she feels like one right now. She's your wife. She loves you very much. I can see it in how she's barely left your side since you were admitted. Or she's a very good actress." The words surprised me, even as I said them. Where had that suspicion come from? What reason did I have to doubt this woman beyond the simple fact that I didn't remember her? Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment, studying me with those sharp eyes. "Has something made you think Emma isn't who she says she is?" "No," I admitted. I feel like something's wrong. Not with her, necessarily, but with all of this. It's not just that I can't remember. It's like there's something I should remember, something important, but whenever I try to think about it, it slides away. That's frustrating, I'm sure, but it's also normal. Your brain is healing. Give it time." She stood, preparing to leave, then paused. "Would you like to see Emma? She's very eager to talk to you, to help you remember." I wanted to say no. Every instinct screamed that I should ask this woman to leave, to let me sort through my own thoughts without the pressure of her grief and desperation. But I also knew that made no sense. If she truly was my wife, if we'd built a life together, then surely she deserved more than my baseless suspicion. "Okay," I said finally. "Yes, send her in." Part 3. Emma. She had composed herself before entering, wiping away her tears and putting on a brave smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She sat in the chair beside my bed, close but not touching, as if she'd learned her lesson about reaching for me. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to overwhelm you before. Dr. Chen explained about the amnesia. I understand that this must be terrifying for you." "It is," I admitted. "Nothing feels real, including you." She flinched but nodded. "What can I do to help? Should I tell you about us, about our life together?" "I guess that would be a start." Emma took a deep breath, gathering herself. "We met 5 years ago at a coffee shop. You were a teacher. You taught high school English. I was working in marketing, but I always went to this particular coffee shop because they made the best lattes. You were there every Saturday morning, always in the corner booth, always grading papers or reading. I thought you were handsome, but you never looked up, never noticed me. Despite myself, I found myself drawn into the story. There was something comforting about being given a history, an identity, even if I couldn't remember it. One day I spilled coffee all over your papers," she continued, a small smile playing at her lips. "I was mortified. I kept apologizing, helping you clean up the mess, but you just laughed. You said it was fate's way of making me talk to you because you'd been too shy to introduce yourself." "That sounds nice," I said carefully. "It was. You were so sweet, James, so kind and funny and genuine. We talked for hours that day. You told me about your students, how you wanted to make them love literature the way you did. I told you about my job, which I hated, and my dreams of being a photographer. We just connected. It felt like I'd known you forever." The irony of that statement wasn't lost on either of us. She had known me forever, supposedly, and yet I was less than a stranger to her now. I was a familiar face with nothing behind it. "We were engaged within a year," Emma went on. "Married 6 months after that. It was a small wedding, just close friends and family. Your parents couldn't make it. They're missionaries in Guatemala, but they sent a video message. My parents walked me down the aisle together." She pulled out her phone and scrolled through photos, turning the screen toward me. I saw myself there, younger, happier, wearing a tuxedo and beaming at the camera. Beside me stood Emma in a white dress, radiant, her eyes full of joy. We looked happy. We looked real. "We bought the house 2 years ago," she continued. "It was a fixer-upper, but you said that was perfect because we could make it our own. You spent every weekend renovating it, painting, building shelves, refinishing the floors. You have this way of making things beautiful." I studied the photos as she scrolled. Images of us, at beaches, at parties, at home. In every picture we were touching, smiling, existing in each other's orbit, as if drawn by gravity. My arm around her waist, her head on my shoulder, his hand in hers. My hand in hers. Why did that feel wrong? "Show me your left hand," I said suddenly. Emma looked confused but held it up. The diamond engagement ring sparkled, but it was the wedding band I focused on, a delicate gold circle that matched the one on my own finger. "Take it off," I said. "What? James, why?" "Please, just take it off." Slowly, clearly unsure, Emma slipped both rings from her finger and held them in her palm. I took them, examining them closely under the fluorescent light. The inside of the wedding band was engraved with tiny letters, JMC and ELK, forever. James Michael Carter and Emma L.K. "What's your maiden name?" I asked. "Kendrick," she said. Emma Louise Kendrick. The engraving matched. The rings looked old, worn, genuinely used. Every detail of her story aligned with physical evidence I could see and touch. So why did I feel like I was being lied to? "I'm sorry," I said, handing the rings back. "I don't know why I did that. I feel like I'm going crazy." "You're not crazy," Emma said softly. She slipped the rings back on, and I noticed her hands were shaking. "You're hurt and confused, and I can't imagine how frightening this is. But I'm here, James. I'm your wife, and I love you, and I'm going to help you remember." What if I don't want to remember? The words escaped before I could stop them, and I immediately regretted them when I saw the pain flash across Emma's face. But there was something else there, too, just for a moment. Something that looked almost like fear. "Why would you say that?" she whispered. "I don't know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." "No, it's okay. You're just processing everything." She stood up, smoothing her hands over her jeans. "I should let you rest. Dr. Chen said you need to take things slowly. I'll come back tomorrow, okay? Maybe seeing me each day will help jog your memory." She leaned down as if to kiss me, then seemed to think better of it. Instead, she squeezed my shoulder gently and left, closing the door with a soft click. I lay back against the pillows, exhausted despite having done nothing but lie in bed for 3 days. My head throbbed, and behind my eyes something flickered. Not quite a memory, but the ghost of one. A sensation, a feeling. Fear. Running. The smell of rain and copper. And a woman's voice, screaming my name. But it wasn't Emma's voice. Part 4. The Psychologist. Dr. Miguel Martinez visited the next morning. A kind-faced man in his 50s with a salt and pepper beard and an easy manner that immediately put me at ease. He sat beside my bed with a notepad, but didn't write anything, just listened as I explained my situation. "It's not just that I don't remember," I told him, trying to put the unease into words. "It's that something feels off, like when you know you're dreaming but you can't wake up. Everything looks right, but it doesn't feel right." "Can you be more specific?" Dr. Martinez asked. "What exactly feels wrong?" "Emma, my wife, supposedly." I ran a hand through my hair, frustrated. "She's kind and patient, and she has photos and rings and a whole history ready to prove we're married. But when I look at her, I feel nothing. Shouldn't I feel something? Even without memory, shouldn't there be some instinctive recognition, some comfort in her presence?" "Not necessarily," Dr. Martinez said. "Emotional memory can be complex. Sometimes it lingers even when explicit memory is gone. That's why amnesia patients often still feel comfortable with family members even if they can't remember them. But trauma can complicate things. The brain is trying to protect itself. Sometimes that means shutting down all connections to a traumatic event, even positive ones." "So it's normal that my wife feels like a stranger?" "It can be, yes, though I understand it's distressing for you, and certainly for her." He paused, studying me carefully. "James, I want to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Do you think Emma is lying to you?" I opened my mouth to say no, but the word wouldn't come. Because yes, some part of me did think she was lying. But why? What possible reason could she have? "I don't know," I said finally. "Logically, no. Everything she says checks out. But my gut tells me something else." "Trust your gut," Dr. Martinez said, surprising me. "Not necessarily that Emma is lying. Your instincts may be warning you about something else entirely. But don't dismiss your feelings." "They're trying to tell you something." He asked me more questions then, about what I could remember, nothing specific, about my dreams, fractured, violent, full of shadows, about how I felt physically, weak, disoriented, like I was wearing someone else's skin. He gave me some exercises to try, ways to stimulate memory recovery, and promised to see me again in a few days. After he left, I lay in bed and tried the exercises. I closed my eyes and tried to think of my earliest memory. Nothing. My parents? Nothing. My childhood home? Nothing. But when I tried to remember the feeling of fear that had flickered through me the day before, it came immediately, visceral and overwhelming. My heart rate spiked, triggering the monitor's alarm. A nurse rushed in, and I had to reassure her I was fine, just anxious. But I wasn't fine. Something was very, very wrong. Part 5. The Visitor. Emma came every day, bringing flowers and books and gentle conversation. She told me stories about our life together, about the vacation we'd taken to Oregon, about the stray cat I'd brought home and insisted we keep, about the dinner parties we'd hosted and the inside jokes we'd shared. She showed me videos on her phone, me playing guitar at a friend's wedding, me laughing at something off camera, me looking at her with what appeared to be genuine affection. And slowly, incrementally, I began to accept it. Maybe this was my life. Maybe I had been happy. Maybe my instincts were just the product of trauma and confusion, not evidence of some darker truth. I was almost convinced when he arrived. It was my 5th day in the hospital. Emma had just left after a 2-hour visit, and I was dozing when I heard the door open. I assumed it was a nurse coming to check my vitals and didn't bother opening my eyes until I heard the voice. "Well, you've really done it this time, haven't you?" The voice was male, unfamiliar, and carried an edge of amusement mixed with concern. I opened my eyes to find a man in his early 30s standing at the foot of my bed. He was tall and lean, with dark skin and close-cropped hair, wearing jeans and a leather jacket despite the warm weather. "Sorry," I said. "Do I know you?" Something flickered across his face. Surprise, confusion, maybe even hurt. "You're serious? Damn, Emma said you couldn't remember, but I thought, James, it's me, Marcus." The name meant nothing to me, but his reaction was so genuine, so different from Emma's carefully controlled emotion, that I found myself paying attention in a new way. "I'm sorry," I said. "I don't remember anything. Not Emma, not my life, not you, apparently. Who are you?" Marcus pulled up the visitor's chair and sat down heavily. "Man, this is messed up. We've been best friends since college. You were the best man at my wedding. I was supposed to be yours, but you eloped, remember? Well, no, obviously you don't remember." "Emma said we had a small wedding," I said slowly. "She didn't mention eloping." "Well, yeah, technically you had a ceremony later for family, but you two got married at a courthouse first. You said—" He stopped abruptly, something shifting in his expression. "Never mind, not important right now." "What did I say?" "Just that you didn't want to wait." Marcus waved it off, but I noticed he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Look, I came because Emma called and said you were awake but having memory issues. I wanted to see if I could help. Maybe seeing an old friend would trigger something." "Has it?" "No," I admitted. "I'm sorry." We sat in awkward silence for a moment. Marcus drummed his fingers on the chair arm, clearly uncomfortable. Finally, he said, "Can I ask you something, and you promise to be honest?" "Okay." "How do you feel about Emma?" The question caught me off guard. "I don't know. She seems nice." "She's trying really hard to help me remember. But do you feel anything for her? Anything at all?" I thought about it, really searched my feelings. "No," I said finally. "Should I?" Marcus let out a long breath. "Man, I don't know how to. Look, there's some stuff you should probably know about before the accident." My heart started racing. What kind of stuff? But before Marcus could answer, the door opened and Emma walked in. She was carrying coffee, smiling, but the smile froze when she saw Marcus. "What are you doing here?" The words were sharp, hostile, completely unlike her usual gentle tone. "Visiting my best friend," Marcus said, standing up. "That okay with you? I told you I'd call when he was ready for visitors. He's been awake for 5 days, Emma. When exactly were you planning to let people see him?" They stared at each other, and the tension in the room was palpable. I looked between them, completely lost, but absolutely certain I was witnessing something important. "What's going on?" I asked. They both turned to look at me, and I saw Emma's expression soften, watched her compose herself. "Nothing," she said. "Marcus was just leaving. Actually, I just got here. James needs his rest. The doctor said I'm recovering well and can have visitors," I interrupted. Emma's eyes widened in surprise. Marcus is apparently my best friend. I'd like to hear what he has to say. Emma's jaw tightened. For just a moment, I saw something else beneath her carefully maintained concern, something cold and calculated. Then it was gone, replaced by hurt and worry. "Of course," she said, quietly. "I'll wait outside." After she left, Marcus sat back down and leaned forward, his voice low. "Listen to me carefully. I don't have much time, and I need you to really hear what I'm saying. Okay. 3 weeks before your accident, you called me at 2 in the morning. You were drunk and upset. You said you'd made a terrible mistake marrying Emma. You said you were afraid of her." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? Why?" "You wouldn't tell me everything. You said you'd found something, discovered something, and now you knew the truth about who she really was. You were talking about going to the police. I told you to come stay with my wife and me, to get away from her until you figured things out. You said you would. You said you'd come the next day." "And did I?" Marcus shook his head. "You called the next morning and said everything was fine, that you'd overreacted, that you and Emma had talked, that you'd worked it out. But you sounded weird, James, flat, like you were reading from a script. I tried to call you after that, but you never answered. Emma said you were busy, that everything was fine. Then 3 days ago, she called to say you'd been in an accident. I felt like I couldn't breathe. You think Emma, what? That she caused the accident? I don't know what to think, but I know my best friend was afraid and planning to leave his wife, and now he's in a hospital with no memory, and that wife is working really hard to make sure he doesn't remember. But the accident was a drunk driver. The police would have investigated. Would they? Or would they just accept the most obvious explanation?" Marcus pulled out his phone. "I have the voicemail you left me that night. Do you want to hear it?" I nodded, and Marcus hit play. A voice filled the room. My voice, slurred with alcohol, but unmistakably desperate. "Marcus, it's me. I know it's late, but I had to call. I can't do this anymore. Emma, she's not who I thought she was. She's not who anyone thinks she is. I found her real wallet today, hidden in her drawer, her real ID. Her name isn't even Emma Kendrick. I don't know who she is, but I know she's been lying to me from the beginning. I'm scared, man. I think I'm in danger. I need to get out. I need to—" The message cut off abruptly, followed by the automated voice, "End of message." I stared at Marcus, my mind reeling. "Play it again." He did. I listened 3 more times, trying to find some sign that it was fake, some indication that this was a trick. But the voice was mine. I'd heard it on the videos Emma had shown me, and it matched. The fear in it was real. "I need to see that ID," I said. "I don't know where it is. You said it was in her drawer at home, but—" The door opened. Emma stood there, her face carefully neutral. "I think that's enough visiting for today. James needs to rest." "We're not done talking," Marcus said. "Yes, you are." Emma's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "James, you're looking pale. Should I call a nurse?" I looked at her, this beautiful woman who claimed to love me, who had sat by my bedside for days, who had cried genuine tears at my condition. I looked at her green eyes and her wedding ring and her cream-colored sweater, and I tried to reconcile what I saw with what I'd just heard. "What's your real name?" I asked quietly. Emma went very still. "What? The voicemail said your name isn't Emma Kendrick. So what is it?" The silence stretched between us, taut as a wire. Emma looked at Marcus with something that might have been hatred, then back at me with an expression I couldn't read. "My name is Emma Carter," she said softly. "I took your last name when we married, as you know. My maiden name was Kendrick. I don't know what lies Marcus has been filling your head with, but he played me a voicemail, from me, from before the accident. Voicemails can be faked," Emma said. James, please, you're confused. You're not thinking clearly. Marcus has always been jealous of our relationship. He never thought I was good enough for you. He's taking advantage of your memory loss to turn you against me. That's bullshit, Marcus said, standing up. James knows the truth, even if he can't remember it.
His instincts are telling him something's wrong, aren't they, James? You said you felt like something was off about Emma. That's because it is. They were both looking at me, waiting for me to choose a side. But how could I? I didn't remember either of them. I had no baseline, no history to judge their claims against. I need you both to leave, I said. Please, I need to think. James, Emma started. Please. She looked like she might argue, but finally nodded. Okay, I'll come back tomorrow. We can talk more then. She leaned down and kissed my forehead, and I had to fight the urge to pull away. I love you. Remember that. After they left, Emma first, Marcus following with a meaningful look that said, "We'll talk later," I lay back and tried to process everything I'd learned. My name was James Michael Carter. I was a teacher. I was married to a woman named Emma. Or maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was married to a woman whose real name I didn't know, who had been lying to me from the beginning. Maybe I'd discovered the truth and been trying to escape. Maybe I'd been in an accident. Or maybe there had been no accident. Part 6. The Truth. That night I had a dream. I was running through rain-slicked streets, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Behind me, headlights cut through the darkness, growing closer, closer. A car engine roared. I tried to run faster, but my legs were heavy, unresponsive. The car hit me from behind, and I went flying, the world tumbling end over end. I hit the ground and tasted blood and asphalt. Through the pain, through the fog, I heard a car door open. Footsteps approached. I looked up and saw her, Emma, standing over me, her beautiful face distorted by the rain and my failing vision. She crouched down, and her expression was almost sad. "I'm sorry," she said, "but you should have stayed quiet. You should have just been happy." Then, darkness. I woke up gasping, the heart monitor screaming. Nurses rushed in, and it took several minutes to calm down enough to convince them I was okay, that it was just a nightmare. But even after they left, my heart continued to race. It wasn't a dream. It was a memory. Emma had tried to kill me. I lay in the dark, my mind working frantically. If Emma had caused the accident deliberately, then she was dangerous. If she'd lied about who she was, then everything she'd told me was suspect. And if I'd been trying to go to the police before the accident, then I must have had evidence. Evidence that might still exist somewhere. I needed help. I needed someone I could trust. Marcus seemed like the obvious choice, but how did I know he wasn't part of whatever this was? He'd said he was my best friend, but Emma had said the same thing about being my wife, and at least some of that was a lie. No, I needed someone official, someone who could actually do something. I called for a nurse and asked to speak with Dr. Chen. She arrived 20 minutes later, looking concerned but alert despite the late hour. "James, what's wrong?" "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. When I was brought in, what did the police report say about the accident?" Dr. Chen frowned. "I don't understand. Why?" "Please, it's important." She pulled up something on her tablet, scrolling through screens. "You were T-boned at an intersection by a drunk driver who ran a red light. The other driver was arrested at the scene. You were unconscious and unresponsive. Your wife was following in her own car and witnessed the whole thing. She rode with you in the ambulance." "Emma was there?" "According to the report, yes. She gave a statement to the police." I felt cold all over. "Can you check something else? Can you find out if there was an investigation into the accident, beyond the standard DUI charges for the other driver?" "James, what's this about?"
"I think my wife tried to kill me," I said flatly. "I think she either caused the accident or arranged it somehow. And I think she's been using my amnesia to control the narrative, to make sure I don't remember whatever I knew about her before I was hurt." Dr. Chen stared at me for a long moment. I could see her weighing my words, trying to determine if this was paranoia or something more serious. "Do you have any evidence of this?" she asked finally. "A voicemail. A friend of mine has it. I'd called him the night before the accident, said I'd discovered Emma was lying about who she was, that I was afraid, that I was going to the police." "Have you told the police this now?" "No, I don't know who to trust. If Emma arranged the accident, she might have connections, resources. I need to be careful." Dr. Chen closed her tablet and sat down. "James, I'm going to be very frank with you. What you're describing could be real, or it could be a delusion brought on by your injury and the stress of your memory loss. The brain sometimes creates false narratives to explain gaps in memory. You don't remember Emma, so you've constructed a scenario where she's a threat rather than face the discomfort of not recognizing your own wife." "I know how it sounds," I said, "but I also know what I feel. And I had that dream, except I don't think it was a dream. I think it was a memory coming back. I saw Emma standing over me after the accident. Emma arrived after the accident, according to the report. She witnessed it, but wasn't involved. What if the report is wrong? What if she lied?" Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I'll make you a deal. I'll look into the accident report more carefully, see if there are any inconsistencies. But you need to agree to meet with Dr. Martinez again tomorrow and discuss these concerns. If you truly believe you're in danger, we need to document that and consider whether you're safe to be discharged into Emma's care." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you. That's all I ask." After Dr. Chen left, I lay awake for hours thinking. If Emma had tried to kill me once, she might try again. I needed to be smart about this. I needed evidence. I needed my memory back. Part 7. The Investigation. The next morning, Marcus returned, this time arriving before Emma's usual visiting hours. He looked tense, worried, glancing at the door as if expecting her to burst in at any moment. "We need to talk fast," he said. "Emma called me last night, threatened me with a restraining order if I came near you again, said I was interfering with your recovery." "She doesn't get to decide who I see," I said. "Marcus, I had a memory, or I think I did. The accident. Emma was there." "She witnessed it, yeah, she told the police." "No, I mean she caused it, or arranged it. I saw her standing over me after I was hit, and she apologized. She said I should have stayed quiet." Marcus's expression hardened. "We need to go to the police." "With what evidence? A possible memory from someone with amnesia, and a voicemail that could theoretically be faked? We need more." "What do you suggest?" "The ID I supposedly found. If it exists, it's either at the house or Emma destroyed it. But even if it's gone, there might be other evidence. Financial records, communications, something that proves she's not who she says she is." "You want me to break into your house?" "It's my house too, technically, and I can't exactly go myself." I gestured at the IV lines and monitors tethering me to the bed. "Look, I know it's a lot to ask. If you don't want to—" "I'll do it," Marcus said. "You're my best friend, James. Even if you don't remember, I remember. I'm not going to let someone hurt you." We made a plan. Marcus would go to the house while Emma was at the hospital visiting me. He'd look for any evidence of Emma's real identity or proof of her intentions. Meanwhile, I'd keep Emma occupied, make sure she didn't leave early or get suspicious. It was risky and possibly illegal, but I didn't know what else to do. Marcus left just as Emma arrived, the two of them exchanging hostile glances in the hallway. Emma came in carrying fresh flowers and a forced smile. "How are you feeling today?" she asked, arranging the flowers in a vase. Better, I lied. I've been thinking about what you said, about our life together. She turned, hope lighting up her face. And? I want to believe you. I want to remember. Maybe you could tell me more? About how we met, our first date, all of it? The relief in her expression was almost painful to watch. She sat down and began talking, weaving an elaborate story about coffee shops and first kisses, about moving in together and adopting the stray cat she'd mentioned before. She showed me more photos, more videos, building a life in words and images. And I watched her carefully, looking for cracks in the facade, for any sign of the person who'd stood over me in the rain and apologized for trying to kill me. But Emma was good. If she was acting, she was an expert. Every smile seemed genuine. Every touch was tender. Every story had the ring of truth. I almost believed her. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Emma glanced at it but didn't comment. I checked it later when she went to coffee from the cafeteria. Found something. You need to see this. I'll bring it tonight. I deleted the message and tried to calm my racing heart. Part 8. The Revelation. Marcus came back that evening during the shift change, when the nurses were distracted and Emma had gone home to shower and change clothes. He looked shaken, carrying a manila envelope that he'd gripped like a lifeline. "You were right," he said, without preamble, "about everything." He opened the envelope and spread its contents across my bed. Papers, photographs, printouts. My hands trembled as I sorted through them. The first was an ID, a driver's license from Florida with Emma's photo, but a different name, Sarah Miller. The birth date was different, too, making her 5 years older than she'd claimed. "I found it hidden in a locked box in the back of the closet," Marcus said. "I had to break the lock, so she'll know someone was there. We don't have much time." I picked up a series of photographs next. They showed Emma, or Sarah, with different people, in different contexts. In one, she stood beside a much older man, her arm around his waist, wearing the same rings she claimed I'd given her. The photo was dated 3 years before we'd supposedly met. "That's Henry Whitmore," Marcus said, "tech millionaire. He died 2 years ago, apparent heart attack. But look at the next one." The next photo showed Emma with another man, younger this time, both of them at a wedding. Her wedding, I realized. The caption at the bottom read, "Sarah and Michael, June 2018. "This can't be right," I said. "This is from 7 months before Emma said we met." There's more. Marcus showed me bank statements, transfers of large sums of money, always shortly after the deaths or divorces of wealthy men. He showed me newspaper clippings about suspicious accidents and sudden illnesses. He showed me a pattern of deception and likely murder spanning at least a decade. Emma, or Sarah, or whatever her real name is a serial con artist, Marcus said. Maybe worse. She targets men, marries them or gets close to them, then disappears with their money after they die or after she's bled them dry. You weren't her first victim, James. You're just the first one who figured it out in time. I felt sick. How did I discover this? According to your search history on the laptop I found, you got suspicious when you noticed discrepancies in Emma's stories. You hired a private investigator who dug up most of this stuff. You were planning to confront her and go to the police.
That's when you called me. And then I had my accident. The drunk driver who hit you, he has no memory of that night. His blood alcohol was through the roof, but he swears he wasn't drinking. The hospital did a tox screen. He had Rohypnol in his system. Someone drugged him and put him behind the wheel. Emma. Most likely. She probably followed him from a bar, spiked his drink, waited for the drugs to kick in, then either drove his car herself or positioned him to hit you. Either way, she made it look like a tragic accident. We stared at each other, the enormity of it settling over us like a shroud. "We need to go to the police now," Marcus said. "With all of this, they'll have to investigate. And if Emma has connections, if she's done this successfully for years, she must be good at covering her tracks, at manipulating investigations. So what do we do?" I looked at the evidence spread before me, feeling my memories still locked away, just out of reach. But I didn't need memory to know what had to be done. We set a trap. Part 9. The Trap. Dr. Chen agreed to discharge me the next day, which was earlier than recommended, but medically acceptable. Emma was overjoyed, talking excitedly about bringing me home, helping me recover, starting fresh. I smiled and agreed, and told her I was starting to remember things, flashes, fragments, but it was coming back. The look on her face when I said that was complicated. Relief, yes, but also something else. Calculation. Marcus and I had worked out the plan. I would go home with Emma and act like nothing was wrong, like I was slowly remembering our life together. Meanwhile, Marcus had taken the evidence to a detective he trusted, someone who'd been skeptical about the accident from the beginning.
They would investigate quietly, gathering more evidence, building a case. All I had to do was survive long enough for them to act. The house at 247 Maple Drive was exactly as Emma had described, blue with a red door, a charming craftsman with a well-kept yard. Inside it was decorated with photos of us, of our supposed life together. I recognized it from the pictures and videos Emma had shown me, but being here in person felt different, wrong. "I'll make dinner," Emma said, guiding me to the couch. "You must be exhausted. Just rest." I watched her move around the kitchen, graceful and efficient, humming softly to herself. She looked happy, relaxed, like she'd won something. Maybe she thought she had. "Emma," I called out, "can you tell me about the night we eloped? I think I'm starting to remember it, but it's fuzzy." She came to the doorway, wooden spoon in hand. "Really? What do you remember?" "I remember we were afraid of something, or I was afraid, and you said we should just do it, just get married right away. Was that it?" Emma's smile faltered slightly. "Not exactly. We were just excited, impatient. We loved each other so much we couldn't wait." "But I remember fear," I pressed, "like something was chasing us, or someone." "You're confusing dreams with memories," Emma said gently. "That happens with head injuries. Why don't you rest? I'll bring you some tea." She disappeared back into the kitchen, and I heard the kettle start to whistle. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. "Detective will be there in 30 minutes. She's applying for a warrant. Hang in there." 30 minutes. I just had to last 30 more minutes. Emma returned with the tea, setting it on the coffee table in front of me. The steam rising from it smelled of chamomile and something else, something bitter that made my stomach clench. "Drink up," she said, smiling. "It'll help you relax." I picked up the cup, letting the warmth seep into my hands, but didn't drink. "Emma, I need to ask you something."
"And I need you to be honest with me. Of course, anything. Who are you really?" The change in her expression was instantaneous. The gentle concern vanished, replaced by something cold and assessing. She didn't answer immediately, just studied me with those green eyes that suddenly seemed less beautiful and more predatory. "What makes you think I'm anyone other than your wife?" she asked carefully. "I found your real ID. Before the accident, Sarah Miller from Florida. I hired a private investigator. I know about Henry Whitmore and Michael Chen and all the others. I know you're a con artist and probably a murderer." "Found," Emma repeated. "Past tense. But you don't remember finding it, do you, James? You don't remember anything. I remember enough. I remember you standing over me after the accident. I remember you apologizing." Emma laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Do you? Or is that just a story Marcus told you, a narrative to explain your confusion?" You're a man with no memory, James. Who do you think the police will believe? You or your devoted wife who's been caring for you since your terrible accident? I have evidence. Marcus found it. He's already gone to the police. For the first time, something like concern flickered across Emma's face. But it was gone quickly, replaced by that cold calculation. Then I suppose we don't have much time, she said. She picked up the teacup and held it out to me. Drink this. What's in it? Does it matter? You have two choices, James. You drink the tea and go to sleep peacefully, or I make you drink it and things get messy. Either way, you're drinking it. You're going to kill me. I'm going to finish what I started, Emma corrected. You should have died in that accident. It would have been clean, simple, an insurance payout and a grieving widow. But you survived, and worse, you forgot. That actually worked in my favor initially. A husband with amnesia, dependent on his wife for everything? Perfect. I could rebuild you, make you into what I needed. But then Marcus interfered. Yes, Marcus and his stupid loyalty. He couldn't just let you be happy with what I told you. He had to go digging, had to make you question everything. She moved closer, still holding the tea. It's a shame, really. I did love you, in my way. You were kind and trusting and so easy to manipulate. We could have had a good life if you'd just stayed blind. How many, I asked, how many people have you killed? Killed is such an ugly word. I prefer to think of it as strategic mortality, she smiled. Does it matter? You're not going to remember anyway, and neither will anyone else once I've had time to clean up this mess. The evidence will disappear. Marcus will have an unfortunate accident, and you'll have taken your own life, despondent over your memory loss and confused about who you were. The police are already on their way. Are they? Or is that just what Marcus told you to keep you calm? Even if they are, by the time they arrive with a warrant, you'll be dead, and I'll be the grieving widow, hysterical over your suicide. I've played this role before, James. I'm very good at it. She pressed the teacup toward my lips, and I had no choice but to drink or fight. I chose to fight. I knocked the cup away, sending it flying. Hot liquid splashed across Emma's shirt, and she shrieked, more in anger than pain. I tried to stand, but my legs were weak from days in the hospital, and I stumbled. Emma caught me, her grip surprisingly strong. We struggled, crashing into the coffee table, knocking over the photos of our fake life. I grabbed her wrist, trying to push her away, but she was strong, and I was weak. I didn't want it to be this way, she screamed, her composure finally shattering. Why couldn't you just forget? Why couldn't you just be happy with the lie? My hand closed around something cold and hard, a glass paperweight from the shattered coffee table. I swung it without thinking, catching Emma across the temple. She fell backward, hitting the floor hard. I stood over her, breathing heavily, the paperweight still clutched in my hand. She looked up at me, blood trickling from her hairline, and I saw something in her eyes that might have been fear or respect or both. You do remember, she whispered, don't you? Some part of you remembers. And she was right. In that moment, something clicked into place. Not full memory, not yet, but a feeling, an instinct, a knowledge of who I'd been before she'd tried to destroy me. A man who'd loved and been betrayed. A man who'd fought back. A man who would survive.
The front door burst open, and suddenly the house was full of police, their voices shouting commands, their bodies filling the space between Emma and me. Detective Linda Chen, no relation to my doctor, I would later learn, pulled me away, while 2 officers restrained Emma, who was screaming that I'd attacked her, that I was confused, that I needed help. But they'd heard enough. They had the evidence. They had Marcus's statement. They had the truth. Emma, or Sarah, or whatever her real name was arrested that night. Over the following weeks, as my memory slowly returned in fragments and flashes, I learned the full extent of her crimes. 4 confirmed murders, at least 6 more suspected, millions of dollars stolen, lives ruined. And I had almost been her final victim. Epilogue, remembering. 3 months later, I sat in Dr. Martinez's office, mostly myself again. The memories had returned, not all of them, probably never all of them, but enough. I remembered meeting Emma, Sarah, falling in love with her smile and her laugh, never suspecting the predator beneath the beauty. I remembered the slow creep of suspicion, the little inconsistencies that didn't add up. I remembered finding the ID, remembered the sick feeling in my stomach as I realized the woman I'd married was a stranger. I remembered calling Marcus.
Remembered deciding to leave. Remembered the fear. And I remembered the accident. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to know that I'd been running, trying to get away. Enough to know that Emma had found me. Enough to know that only luck and the quick response of paramedics had saved my life. "How do you feel?" Dr. Martinez asked, pen poised over his notepad as always. "Grateful," I said honestly. "Lucky. Terrified of how close I came." "And the amnesia? Any lingering frustration about the memories you haven't recovered?" I thought about it. There were gaps still, whole days or weeks that remained lost, perhaps forever. But did it matter? I knew who I was. I knew what had happened. I knew I'd survived. "No," I said finally. "Some things are better forgotten." The trial would start next month. I would have to testify, have to face Emma again and recount everything she'd done. Marcus would be there, and Dr. Chen, and the detective who'd believed us when belief required a leap of faith. But that was the future. For now, I was alive. I was free. I was myself again, scarred but surviving. And I was learning to trust again, slowly, carefully, knowing now what I hadn't known before, that the beautiful face can hide a monster, that love can be a weapon, that forgetting can sometimes be the mind's way of protecting what matters most. I left Dr. Martinez's office and stepped into the sunshine, pulling out my phone to call Marcus and tell him I was ready. Ready to testify, ready to move forward, ready to build a new life from the ruins of the one that had been built on lies. Behind me, the hospital doors closed, and I didn't look back. The past was there, waiting in my recovered memories, but I didn't have to live there anymore. I was James Michael Carter. I was 32 years old. I was a survivor. And I was finally, truly myself again. The end.